3D printer tragedies, machines skipping layers right on camera, and printers shorting out. All this and more, Print Fix Friday, episode 40. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here and you love learning about print fixes via failures, make sure to leave a like and get subscribed because you are watching the longest weekly print fail fix series right here on YouTube. We're going to start with a bit of a tragedy. We had a life lost due to a faulty 3D printer. We're going to talk a bit about it. Then we move into my buddy Uncle Jesse, who's, well, hasn't had the best of luck with his Bambu Lab X1 Carbon. Then we move into an awesome thank you from a fan, which, you know, I gotta give the credit where it's due. Thank you for that. Then we move into an ender with a leaky nozzle that also has its layers too close. I wonder if those two things are related. Then we move into a company who I would love to do some work with, Vector Finesse, who makes the Hedamame headphones, but having a bit of problem with one of their printers. We then move into a Prusa that when you go to heat it up, the whole thing reboots. Wonder what that could be. And finally, we're going to land on a Elegoo Saturn that has a cross-threaded bolt into it. It's a tough one. But you know what isn't a tough one? My segue to our sponsor, 3D Musketeers. If you are tired of print fails, we know they're tough. That's why we try to help you solve them right here on the channel. You can reach out to the pros over at 3D Musketeers. With almost 40 printers and over 40 years of combined experience, the pros here at 3D Musketeers can help you get those ideas out of your noggin and into your hands as quickly as possible with awesome rapid prototyping and 3D printers like you see behind me all the time. So if you want to get your 3D prints handled by professionals, you can reach out to 3D Musketeers. Links will be in the description down below. If you do want to help us out by kicking a couple of bucks to that creator fund, you can do so by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/3D Musketeers with tiers starting as low as $1. And the $25 tier and higher, we're going to be offering an awesome opportunity to do some beta testing with us. We've got some fun stuff coming up here. But we understand that not everybody has the availability to kick a couple of bucks into that creator fund. And that's okay. A like and subscribe and a comment or two absolutely help this channel grow. We would greatly appreciate your support. And don't forget, we're doing high-end 3D scanning. I have a lot of videos coming up on that very soon. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you are. And then let's get back to the video. We're going to cover the dark thing first, then we're going to get into more fails because I think this is important for us to talk about. TRONXY. Some of you know their printers. The X5SA is dirt cheap, but it has claimed a life. 3D printing is generally thought of, at least to users, as being relatively safe. You know what your risks are, you mitigate the risks, and you'll be fine. However, sometimes, if you're new, you don't really know what's going on. Unfortunately, 3D printing has caused a death, second death that I'm aware of, and another major house fire. This is not an ANET, hilariously, right? We're normally used to ANETs being the ones that cause house fires, but any 3D printer that doesn't have thermal runaway can, and potentially will, catch fire eventually. We did a video on this where some external factors meant that the printer that we had that did not have thermal runaway did not catch fire, but I helped it out a little bit. We'll card to that video so you guys can take a look at it. But this sucks, right? This really, really sucks because here's what happens, right? One, people like Breaks and Makes, 3D Printing Professor, Joel Telling, my friends, all get upset. We knew that this was a problem. It's been a problem for a long time. When you make printers so freaking cheap, you have to cheap out somewhere. And a lot of times companies don't include heaters that are competent enough to overcome their cooling systems or just the main thermal mass in the machine itself. So to combat that, they turn off thermal runaway, which, by the way, is on by default in Marlin, which is what most of these printers are using. And they just roll the dice. Because here's the problem. It really is difficult to sue a Chinese company. Ask Artec. It's been difficult. Breaks and Makes, Joe Kasha. If you guys don't know him, go follow him. Great guy. He reviewed and got hated on and threatened for saying it's dangerous and shouldn't be bought. There are times in your life where you don't want to be right, and it really freaking sucks when you are. This is one of those cases. 3D Printing Professor talked about it, Breaks and Makes retweeted it, and then I found this article from 3D Natives. Take it for what you will. We'll link to everything down below. But basically, no thermal runaway, printer went poof, and the individual did not make it out alive. And that is completely indefensible. And unfortunately, TRONXY's gonna defend it by saying, we're in another country, we don't care. And so what can we as makers do? Stop buying shitty printers. Okay? Stop it. Seriously. If it appears to be too cheap, it probably is. And if you get a printer and that is cheap, check it for thermal runaway. It's not difficult. And if you're unsure, email me. This is my email. Right here is my email. Email me. I will reply and I will get on a Zoom call with you and I will walk you through how to check if your printer has thermal runaway protection, because we don't need another one of these stories. It's hard enough to get insurance right now, especially for 3D printing businesses. We shouldn't have more instances like this. It's not okay. Anyways, let's move on. We've got my buddy Uncle Jessy, former podcast guest, will card to his episode up there for you guys as well. It was a lot of fun talking with Clayton. He's a really, really good guy. And well, he's ridden the struggle bus a little bit with his Bambu Labs X1 Carbon 3D printer. We can see he's got some cleanup on aisle 2. Hilariously, we can see that because the printer has an onboard camera, we can actually see exactly what occurred. We can see that it likely got some sort of a blockage, whether it's a clog of some sort, and eventually the printer pushed through it. But that was a few layers gone, and that meant that it ended up grabbing those next layers and pushing them off the print, causing the failure that you see. This happens, we've all been there before, and that's why having AI on your printer, something like the 3DQ software or the Spaghetti Detective, which I guess rebranded to a new company name, both those softwares are amazing to detect what's going on in your printers. And the Quinley system from 3DQ is something that I'm really interested in, and I've been trying to convince the owners and the guys over at 3DQ to come on a podcast. So if you guys have access to them, help me out. I want to get them on the podcast and talk about what they're doing and how they do it. And we can see his issues don't just stop there. He had a hot end decide that it was going to come off. And this is nice to see that the printer did auto-detect the failure and stop the print. And that's cool. And he knows that when he was checking on the mobile app. Again, features that are useful, but I'm not a big fan of mobile apps just because of the data. I don't know what's being sent back and forth, and I don't want to risk it. And we see here that 3D Nero says, I know it's just magnets that hold it on, but something's got to hit it with a bit of force to get it to pop off. So if the hot end is only held in with magnets, which would make sense, they're trying to reduce the load that this thing sees. Because if you don't know about the Bambu Labs X1 Carbon, they're very, very, very fast printers. And some people have had amazing results. Some people, like Uncle Jessy, have had a little bit of trouble with them. But this is a bit of a newer technology. It's got the LiDAR sensing, which I'm still hesitant to say is LiDAR because this is actual LiDAR, and this is $60,000. That entire printer is $1,500, and this thing can't hit anywhere near the accuracy they're claiming. So I reached out to get our unit to see if we could try it out to see what kind of scanning it actually is, but 5,000 subs, you know how it goes. But yeah, this is real LiDAR. This is an Artec Ray. Anyways, I could get into this. We're doing some scanning tomorrow. That's why it's here. We're charging it up so that I can take it out to go do some scanning of construction sites. So make sure you get subscribed if that's something that you guys want to see, because that is coming up very, very soon. We're going to be using our scanners out in the field to show you what it looks like to use big scanners and what comes with it in terms of challenges. But yeah, my guess here is it's due to the AMS, which is their filament swapping system. It's basically an MMU, but for this machine. It goes and purges and has a little wipe sequence. And I wonder if that wipe sequence that we dealt with might have caused this problem, because apparently we're 17 minutes in and that was the problem that occurred. But I don't see anything on the build plate. So my best guess is this might have happened right when the print started, but who knows? I'm sure he might have gone back and looked at the footage, but we don't see it here. I do want to give a big shout out to Ferdinand Heiselberg at Tritium Fusion on Twitter. It said, PrintFixFriday YouTube Con has been one of the most effective and efficient learning tools into 3D printing that I've ever had the privilege to see. Thank you so much, a 3D printing enthusiast. No, thank you. It's people like you,
viewers like you,
others out there that tag us on all the social medias and use the hashtag PrintFix that allow us to make this content every week. Let's be real, I don't exactly have a ton of time every week to go through and find a bunch of fails. And thankfully, we have an awesome community that helps me out so that when I'm feeling a little low or we're a little busy, we're able to still get these videos pumped out for you guys. So thank you, Ferdinand. Thank you. I'm about to scream. No, I'm not. You might be. I'm not. Okay, let's take a look at what we got going on here. We've got what appears to be an ender because this is the carborundum. Did I get it right? People leave comments about me getting it wrong. And a part of me wants to just get it wrong every time as a joke. But I'll be nice. I think it's carborundum. So I think the big thing here is that they're a little too close, and we can see this. We can see here that they've got ridges in between their, these aren't perimeters, it's a brim line, but effectively the same thing, right? They are a little bit too close, but blobs like this could also be indicative of a leaky nozzle. Did they do a nozzle change? I did recently change my nozzle for the first time, and all they did was hand tighten it. Remember, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, when you change out the nozzles on your printers, heat up your printers to tighten down the nozzle. If not, it's going to leak around the threads. There's nothing that we can do to stop it. You have to make sure that everything is properly seated. But be careful. You can over tighten it and strip out your block. There is a fine line between, oh, it works, to, oh, it's just spinning. Don't be the second guy. So yeah, a little bit of tuning on that first layer, tighten up that nozzle, and actually tightening up the nozzle might keep you from having to touch the first layer. You might get lucky. I guess we're gonna have to find out. We got a fail from Vector Finesse, and if you don't know Vector Finesse, they make the Hedamame kits that are 3D printed headphones, and I kind of really want to make one soon. So if you guys want to see that build, let me know down in those comments and I will get it added to the calendar. I love audio. In fact, I've used the same pair of headphones for, gosh, close to 5 or 6 years now. These are Sennheiser HD 518s. They're older, but they're open back, and that's why they're lovely. And I know Vector Finesse does make some pretty good kits, and I'd like to put them up against something like this or some reference grade like an HD 650. That might be a lot of fun. When we look at this failure, it sucks. So what exactly happened here? We've got a build plate that has said, "See ya later, nerd." This is a build plate for a printer that I'm not immediately familiar with, but it might be one of those odd Kingaroon machines. I don't know. Let me know if you guys know the model of the printer. But what has likely happened here, we can see that it's got a pretty serious overhang that it was dealing with. It might have had a clog that it ended up pushing through. This can happen, and when that does happen, well, you're gonna get a bit of a blob that might knock your print off. And they had stellar bed adhesion, but that meant it took the entire flex plate with it. It's actually why I like printers that have the alignment pins for those flex plates, because that means it's less likely to get knocked around by the hot end itself. You could have also had, especially with how much of an overhang this is, some perimeters that warped up a little bit and the nozzle caught it and ripped it off. I don't know without a time lapse, but this one should be pretty simple. Look at better cooling, look at printing slower. Sometimes you have a cooling issue and this fan is not enough. Printing slower will allow it to cool better. You can also look at adding an aftermarket cooler, which is also acceptable. But yeah, these always suck. Happy Monday. Indeed. I have a feeling this is a damaged heater cartridge. Can anybody confirm? I got a heater hanging. They're going to preheat the printer and it reboots. It could be. So when instances like this occur, I would always look at that heater cartridge. And with the hot end hanging like that, it could be that your heater cartridge is shorted. Yep, that's exactly what it was. Look at that. Yeah, so when your hot end is hanging like that, your heater wires, especially on a Prusa, are not designed to be sitting that way. And when you go to bend them, they might just barely touch each other. And that short is going to cause a spike in amperage draw from the power supply, which is going to reset the printer because the power supply can't handle that amount of load. This is supposed to happen. You want this to happen. So if you get a short during a print, your print instantly dies. Not that your power supply keeps trying to feed it and it catches fire. It's not what you want. We've been over this. Fire is not good for 3D printers. But you know, this is the nice thing. Prusa support got them covered, and that's what I love about Prusa support. People rag on Prusa all the time about having expensive printers. None of us have ever lied and said they're cheap, but what they are is they're incredibly good value machines. They just work. They just work. And that has value, especially for businesses like 3D Musketeers, where we need things to just work. In fact, we ran 9 of our Prusa printers to do over 90 hours of printing in less than 8 hours for a client. We actually did a time lapse of it. We'll have it on screen and we'll card to it. But that's the value of Prusa. And I actually talked about one of my failures in last week's PrintFixFriday with this. We'll card to that video so you guys can see it, where in that rush job, one of the freaking spools fell off a spool holder and hit the reset button. It's hilarious. It happens to the best of us, but that's just a fail that you can't account for. But thankfully, Prusa support is awesome and got them taken care of. Brand new heater cartridge is likely in order, and you're going to be back to the races in no time. Okay, finally, this is one that is important for us to talk about. It is really, really important. This is a failure that I've never seen before, but as soon as I was sent these pictures by my good buddy Chris Catlett, I knew exactly what happened here. This is an Elegoo Saturn, and the Saturn has removable thumb screws for its build plate, and they come all the way out. This individual has either cross-threaded or they've gotten resin inside of that bolt, and that resin has cured and is now Loctited that bolt in place. And they've gone at it with some pliers, and unfortunately, they have not drained their vat, so likely we could see some shmoo in that vat, rendering this resin completely and utterly wasted. But this sucks, and you gotta be careful. They were able to get this piece off, but the stud still remained. Now, at this point, you could say, I'm gonna leave it like this, and that's it. You just have to be careful when you're reinstalling the vat, but all you then have to do is just get a new thumb screw, and you're done. It's not the way it should be. This entire pin is supposed to come out, but it's not. It is stuck in there. And if we look, we can see what looks like maybe some resin that could have potentially cured and turned it into Loctite. And well, try as they may, the printer said no. And, well, it broke off inside. There are a few ways that you can fix this, and none of them are in any way, shape, or form fun. You can try an easy out. Easy outs are the bolt extractors. They don't always work, but they don't generally cause too many problems. You just have to be careful not to snap it, leaving hardened steel inside of the bolt as well. That would be bad news bears. The other way to do it is to get a drill press and drill out that screw a little bit smaller than what the threads come out to be. That way you're left with very, very little material in there that you can likely pull out with a pair of pliers. But this requires an incredibly accurate setup, most likely a center punch that is directly in the center of this bolt, and a lot of things that the average home gamer doesn't have. So what can the person do now that they're here? Pray is about the best thing that I can recommend. There's really no easy way to do this. And you might get lucky. You can pull apart the actual top plate of the printer. This whole printer is coming apart, right? If you can pull apart the top plate of the printer, you might get lucky and be able to get it from the bottom. I would also look at torching it, because if it is resin, torching it would viably try to break those bonds. But remember, resin is toxic, and you definitely want to do that in a well-ventilated area while wearing proper VOC filtered respiration, because those fumes are going to be toxic. If you're lucky, and that's the problem, it'll come right out. But I'm guessing this is probably more of cross-threaded. So, how do we stop the cross-threading from occurring? When you are screwing down bolts like this, go in reverse and put a little downward pressure on it until you feel it click. That is it basically aligning itself to be threaded in properly. It's an old school trick, but it works every freaking time. And if it starts to get tight, don't force it. If it's not gonna go, don't force it. This is basic life advice, ladies and gentlemen, okay? There's no easy way to solve this now that we're here. When we were here, we had options. When we were here, we still had options. When we're here, we only have a few options, and none of them are fun. And all of them basically require you to remove that screen. This is laborious. Frankly, if it was me, I would look at finding a completely other way to hold that vat in place, because I would not want to deal with this. But I use the trick of backing it in and then go ahead and screwing it in properly to make sure that everything fits. But this is an ongoing saga from the Table Flip Foundry Discord, so if you guys do want to get help with your resin prints, go head over there. They've got a great section where a lot of us do hang out and try to help people out whenever we can. I pulled this from there. But yeah, that's about all we got for you all today. Make sure to leave a comment down below if you think I got anything wrong or you want to add some opinions. I love to hear your guys' thoughts on these fails, so please comment below, let me know. But stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. I'm really excited about this project. I'm going to be scanning construction sites with a freaking LiDAR scanner. It's exciting. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video, and a massive thank you goes out to all of our Patreon and YouTube channel member supporters whose names are listed right next to me at the $5 tier and higher. Remember, if you want to join this elite group of Musketeers, you can head over to patreon.com/3dmusketeers, where you can join for as low as $1 a month to help us make awesome videos like this multiple times a week. Or you can always click that join button right below this video. Right below me will be the entire Print Fix Friday series, where we talk all about print failures and how to fix them. And right next to that will be a video that YouTube thinks you should watch next. You should click them both. It helps the algorithm out a lot. I will see you guys down in those comments and in the next one. Take care.